How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Yes, I'm back for a couple of days here. Looks like I've been gone for about 5 days over WrestleMania weekend, and Thursday, heading off to Hawaii. So if you love those Mike Solo shows, get another week of it here coming up very soon. But while I'm here, I'm going to do what I can to tell you what's going on from my perspective. We got a lot happening over the last couple of days. I haven't been on the show talking about WrestleMania or NXT TakeOver or the Ring of Honor New Japan show, Orange Cassidy, any of these topics. We could talk about that today if you'd like. I also had Raw last night, which I did not attend live. I was back home watching on television. A lot of stuff happening on Raw, but not that much, in the sense that you had the debut of Lars Sullivan, you had the Undertaker segment, but at the end of the day, the big show is next Monday. Next Monday is the Superstar Shake-Up, or Shakedown, not even sure. But that's coming up next Monday on the show, so that's when the big stuff is going to happen. People move from Raw to SmackDown, and all sorts of things are going to change. And my gut still tells me they're going to break up the Revival. I don't know that for sure. Don't report that all over the internet. That's just my gut. Because there's a lot going on in WWE. Sasha Banks was supposed to be on the Wendy Williams show today and no-showed. Reports are they're very, very unhappy about that. I don't know what's going on with Sasha Banks, but I can talk a little bit about that here today. Debut of Lars Sullivan. SmackDown tonight, we got a match scheduled for the show. There is so much stuff to talk about. So, if you'd like to join us here today, 844-411-5411 is the phone number. That is toll-free, 844-411-5411. You can send your text messages to 425-780-7566. What did you think of Raw, WrestleMania, Ring of Honor, all of the shows over the weekend? What are you expecting going into the Superstar Shake-Up? Whatever is on your mind. Back in a moment to kick it off. Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Due to personal reasons, Sasha Banks writes on Twitter, I had to pull out of my appearance today on Wendy Williams. Sorry to everyone who was looking forward to it. Hopefully the opportunity will be there again later. Hashtag, if you only knew. And 17 hours ago, she wrote a long thing on Twitter. There's something about the way life happens today that makes it hard to look ahead. There are things that make it difficult to laugh, difficult to live the way you want. There are things that make it almost impossible to trust where you are or to believe in where you want to be. You look around and life is happening way too fast. Sometimes it feels like the moments are gone. Everything happens all at once and right away. We're marching toward a destiny we cannot understand, towards the kingdom of convenient. Then one day you look up and you can't find the meaning. Your crisis of purpose and passion is acting up, but they tell you that's what's supposed to be normal. Well, I don't want normal, I want magic. Because that's the place that feels like home to me. That's the place where I remember what dreams look like, where meaning is effortless and purpose is simple. That's the place where love still matters. I want that feeling of coming home again. I want to feel like myself. I want that magic. And then, as noted, didn't show up to Wendy Williams. Reports are the Wendy Williams people very upset about it. They were told at the very last minute. So I don't know what's going on, everybody, but that's what people are talking about this morning, so that's what I'm talking about here. She was also not on Raw last night. They just sent out Bayley to go out there and get beaten in like 2 minutes by Alexa Bliss. This coming off them losing the tag team titles to, of all people, the Iconics at WrestleMania. So I don't know what's going on, but that's the story there. Mike, what'd you think of Raw?
I thought it was okay. it was just okay. After that kind of weekend, it was a little bit deflating. They didn't have a whole lot. Lars Sullivan finally debuted and did as good of a job as you could do there. You know, you saw Kurt Angle get a little bit of revenge on Baron Corbin, bring the people back up again. He gets that moment and then gets dropped by Lars Sullivan. So let's see what happens there. Let's see what brand he ends up with and where everything shakes out with him, literally, on the Superstar Shake-Up or Shakedown or whatever the hell it's called. I would assume he's going to end up staying on Raw. I would still figure they're going to feature him there. The Sami Zayn re-debut or whatever the I'm not sure exactly what that is quite yet, or how I feel about it yet, because no matter what Sami Zayn does, no matter how much he insults the crowd, much like Daniel Bryan, people are going to be going, yes, we are idiots, and we'll see if they're able to if he's able to take them into the same place where Daniel Bryan is, where at least during the match they hate his guts, even though during promos it's going to be very difficult to boo or hate Sami Zayn. The only real drawback, I think, of the night for a lot of people, and I just kind of shook it off, I think I'm just tired after the weekend, is what people looked at was a bait and switch in the main event of the show, where it was Kofi Kingston and Seth Rollins winner take all. And I think I get why people are upset about that and the bar interfering and everything, but I can't believe that anybody thought on Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania they were going to merge those titles and something wasn't going to come and there wasn't going to be something at the end of it. I think they probably knew that, and using the bar, was probably going to get the best response from that fan base that was there. Because again, it's hard to hate Sheamus and Cesaro, but I think the people that are really that upset about it, I don't know. Maybe I'm just tired after the weekend, but I'm not that insulted or offended by it.
Also got this everyone's talking about. What do you think about the Sami Zayn promo, burying the fans and saying that they complain too much? This person here says, who wrote that promo Sami Zayn cut last night, bashing the fans? That felt like something straight out of Nitro. I know Sami's a tremendous heel, but why are heels in WWE always blaming the people who pay their hard-earned money attending the shows to get heat? Listen, burying the fans is not WCW. Burying the fans is every single solitary heel dating back as long as there have been heels cutting promos. I mean, heels always come out and they say the fans are fat, the fans are stupid, the fans are ugly. This is just another way. He's saying the fans complain too much. They think they should be the booker. It's the modern thing that we've got now, where they're reacting to the reaction of the fans in a way that is causing the fans to think more of this is real than, like, it's mind-blowing to me, the reaction of the fans. I mean, this is a heel cutting a promo. Yeah. Vince is mad at the fans. He wrote a promo for the guy. The guy's reading it, and that's it. I mean, that's the story.
And I'm sure it's a lot of venting coming from their end, either as a performer who's always got to hear it, again, in the age of social media and everything, even if you try to avoid it, it's not like before where you just shut off the TV, shut off the radio, I'm not picking up the paper. Now, I mean, it's literally brought to you how much you suck or how much something sucks or whatever it is, and things that are outside of your control, things that people don't see or don't understand, that, moving parts behind the scenes that they don't understand. And some of it legitimately, some of it caused by themselves. I mean, I was blocked by Sami Zayn on Twitter out of nowhere. Never had any animus towards Sami. I don't think I've ever said a bad word about Sami Zayn. Back what he does as far as his charitable work in Syria and everything. But after that, where I admittedly lost my cool, because I usually don't go out to and seekingly go after people, but I was not happy with Road Dogg's comments against the fans when this whole Becky Lynch thing started, because I took it as an insult. And as a guy who came up in the wrestling business, and, I really love the Armstrong family, but basically when they were telling fans how dumb they were and how silly they were to not, you're completely missing the point with Becky Lynch. We've got a story here going on, but your story was bad. Your story was wrong. And they obviously, how everything turned out, they were wrong about that. But I had a little tit for tat, as everybody probably that listens to this show remembers, with Road Dogg, and all of a sudden I was blocked by Sami Zayn. And I found that to be, that was the most random thing, but I guess I kind of get it. Your buddy, I don't know if he's buddies with Road Dogg or whatever it is, but it's just like, I don't know. That was like legitimate criticism that I had of it, and I probably did it in the wrong way, but I don't know. I don't know. It's just, I'm sure some of it is coming from things that are legitimate, but they do have a way of constantly bumping up against their fan base and constantly being abrasive with their fan base in a way that's not, I think, beneficial to them at all at times.
Says Vince absolutely wrote Sammy's promo. He hates us. No, he doesn't hate you.
No, he doesn't.
But what he feels is
he doesn't understand you. Often
the issue is he thinks you will never be happy. He gave you a WrestleMania where every babyface won in all of the big matches. Kofi Kingston won the title, Becky Lynch won the title, and Seth Rollins won the title. For the most part, not in every match, obviously, because not every match is going to have a babyface finish, but for the most part, babyfaces won up and down the show. I know people were upset that Kurt Angle lost, but I mean, if it hadn't been Baron Corbin, if Kurt Angle lost to Joe or he lost to Ray or whoever, nobody would have complained because guys lose in their retirement match on the way out. That's the way things are done. But people were upset because it was Baron. But at the end of the day, he gave everybody what they wanted, which, by the way, I said was going to happen at this WrestleMania, but nobody believed me. He gave everybody what they wanted in those big matches, and people still found 1,000 things to complain about. So yes, he's upset about that. It doesn't mean he hates you. If he hated you, he wouldn't have had Becky win.
But wait a second, you're saying that was written for Sami Zayn last night, like in the last 24 hours, because people complained about New Jersey Transit. I mean,
not about transit.
I mean, who was really that upset about WrestleMania? Where it's like,
dude, people complained about the way that Becky won.
I think
everything.
I think this is more of the character thing of just you're never going to be happy. I don't think this is specifically about WrestleMania. I just think this is probably cathartic for Vince and for probably a lot of wrestlers and a lot of performers and things like that for people who do throw things at them, whether legitimate or not. I'm sure that that's what it is more than just specifically about WrestleMania last night.
This person says, fans complain a lot. Seems like there's a portion of fans who watch only to complain. Nobody who is not mentally ill is watching WWE only so that they can complain about it. If you're watching WWE, it's because you want to like WWE. And there's a lot of stuff that you can complain about if you watch WWE. Honest to God, if I wrote a promo, I'd be writing promos about the fans that are afraid to say anything negative about WWE, even if they do something that's not great. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also WrestlingObserver.com. A couple of things on my Twitter I want to very quickly go over here. Then I got a fellow waiting here on the line. So, as far as the length of the show, I'll make this quick. WrestleMania should have a 1-hour pre-show and a 4-hour main show. That's it. Not 2 days. 1 hour pre-show, 4-hour main show. Not everybody needs to be on WrestleMania. Like that term, your WrestleMania moment, like WrestleMania is supposed to be like the big deal where like it's the pinnacle of your career. You made it to WrestleMania. You made it to WrestleMania. At this point, your WrestleMania moment means you were employed that year. Is that really that special? Is it really that special to know that you were in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and you were thrown out in 10 seconds? I mean, is that something you're going to tell your children? I was on WrestleMania in 2019. I was thrown out of the Battle Royal in 15 seconds, and I walked to the back. Like, this should be the showcase of the absolute biggest stars and the hottest rivalries and whatever got over, and it should be 4 hours. And here's another thing, and you can answer this, Mike. Mm-hmm. How long is the Super Bowl?
Game time itself or the whole thing-a-majig?
It goes about 4 hours.
Yeah, it's about 6 to 10. Yeah, the game itself is an hour, but 4 hours, yes.
Yeah, yesterday when I was complaining about the length, and I don't even know anything about sports, but all these idiots, who I presume know a lot about sports, were crying that you can't have WrestleMania be short because it's WrestleMania. It's got to be long. And I'm like, dude, the Super Bowl is 1,000 times bigger than WrestleMania, and they get that damn show over in 4 hours. Is the Super Bowl like, well, it's the Super Bowl, and so tonight we're going to do 8 quarters. Which I guess wouldn't be a quarter. But you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't extend the damn game. It's still 4 quarters. Right?
Yes.
Okay, it's just like any other game. It's just the biggest one of the year. 7.5 hours for WrestleMania is ridiculous. And people are going, well, it wouldn't have ended so late if you would have started earlier. Okay, yes. Part of the reason people were tired was it was 12:30. Okay? But the main reason people were tired was because the show was 7.5 hours long.
You're right, but they're not. This is going. I want to see what happens at the Tokyo Dome on January 4th and see how the 2 days works itself out, because I think we are barreling towards a 3-day weekend where NXT gets Friday and we get a split WrestleMania. At least that attempt
I ain't going
once. And I wonder. I just have that feeling that that's going to happen at some point. Have a corporate sponsor for it for the entire weekend, the same way a lot of these music festivals are. I bet you this may be the direction we're going to go in. For as much as they don't love to be associated with pro wrestling, if they can get more music acts and things like that in there, and they can say they make a weekend out of it, I bet you at some point we're going to see it, and we'll see if the Dome show is any sort of test for that, and see if that just shakes them up a little bit. But if they're going to do a show this long, you're right, it shouldn't be that long. But if you are going to do it, why not start it at midnight or at noon and get it over at 8, or start it at 1 and get over by 9? It is still too long, because it would make more sense than going to 12:30.
No, listen, here. People weren't just tired for the main event. Like, they were dead after the Daniel Bryan match. So the Daniel Bryan match was over at, like, I don't know, 9:30 or something like that, 10 o'clock. I have to go back and look at how many matches were left, but there were a lot of matches left. So it wasn't how late it went. I mean, people didn't just get tired at 11. I mean, they were tired at like 9:30 or 10.
No, and you're right about that, but it would, I can't, they're going to do it anyway. So if you're going to do it, at least do it earlier. I mean, that's the most I can hope for right now. Are they going to shorten it? Probably not, no, but I would like them to, because, yeah, it is way too long. You don't need all of that. If you cut out the women's match, if you cut out a couple of things would have stood out more. It's unfortunate that, like, you know, history is going to have to look back, like Randy Orton, even Triple H and Batista. You know, did that shine the way it should have? Did Randy Orton and AJ Styles shine the way it should have? No, and they were pretty good matches, each one. They're going to be kind of forgotten about as we move forward, let alone the women's match, the tag match.
Person's arguing the Super Bowl here. Can you imagine?
About what?
They extended the pregame and halftime for the Super Bowl. Your analogy is apples to oranges. Football is a game with strict regulations, and pay-per-view pro wrestling shows are not. What the hell does that? It doesn't make any difference. That's not my point. My point is, if the Super Bowl can end in 4 hours as the biggest game of the year, then WrestleMania can end in 4 hours as the biggest wrestling show of the year. Period. End of story. Now, I retweeted something from PCO. Just want to throw out that I can confirm, having been there live in the building, that PCO is not human.
No.
Also this. Did you notice the main event, there were at least 3 instances where you could easily hear them calling spots, nothing against the match as a whole, which was solid. That really grinds my gears and takes me out of the contest when I hear spots being called.
Hey, well, good technology, all right?
First off, I didn't hear it. And second off, I mean, I can tell you this from being in the building, okay? It's big. There's 80,000 people in this gigantic MetLife Stadium. And so what they did was they mic'd the ring where every time somebody took a bump, I mean, you could hear it 2 blocks down the road. I don't think they wanted a situation where everybody was taking bumps and you couldn't hear it. So they mic'd that ring to be so loud for the bumps, and as a result, you did in fact hear more spots being called. That's why that happened. And there's a give or take. Like, I'm sure maybe it took people out of the match watching at home, but I mean, one of the things about being at a live event like that is one of the things that people really react to is the sound of those bumps when people do big moves. If you take that out of the match, you thought the crowd was dead. I mean, if you took that out of the show, that crowd would be 10 times as dead because they wouldn't even hear any bumps being taken. So you got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah, you got people, how far away in the upper deck of that building? So, yeah, I mean, now see, there's where Sami Zayn has got a right to be all pissed off at people if people nitpick on that sort of thing. All
right, let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, guys, this is Frankie from Chicago.
Yes, Frankie.
I have a quick question, kind of layered question for both you and Mike about women's wrestling in the WWE right now.
We don't take layered questions on this show. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Okay. So about the women in wrestling right now, it's kind of been about 4 years since hashtag Give Divas a Chance, and now we've got the main event of WrestleMania being women. Do you think, honestly, for the company's perspective, this is kind of like the peak of women's wrestling in WWE, and they don't really have to, do any more because they've kind of finally got the ultimate PR move of the main event? Or do you genuinely believe going forward the women are still going to be a high-profile part of the shows?
Well, I want to thank you very much for the call. Here's my thoughts on this. I think that if somebody gets as hot as Becky Lynch, or if she continues to get hot, then I think if they run a pay-per-view and they feel that her match is the hottest match on the show, it will be the main event. That's what I think is going to happen. Now, quite frankly, and I think I may have even argued this, maybe I didn't, but it was pretty clear that the hottest match at WrestleMania was Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston. And quite frankly, it's going to make people mad, but I don't care if you're a man or a woman in wrestling. I mean, the reality is the hottest match on the show happened to involve two guys. And to me, that should have closed the show. And a lot of that is how they botched everything with Charlotte and Ronda and Becky, and they made it too complicated. There was a very, very simple story, like dating literally back to the summer. But one of the things with WWE is it's not that they don't want to keep it simple, but because they've got to get everybody on every show all the time, they have to write so much stuff that in the end, it's not simple. And the lack of simplicity, the complicated nature of that story, made it that by the end, it wasn't the hottest program. But they were committed to close the show with that match. They announced it in advance for the publicity, and so that's what they had to do. And at the end of the day, it absolutely does not matter one bit. It doesn't matter what show closed. Becky was over last night. She was as over as she would have been no matter where the match would have been or what the reaction would have been for the main event. It doesn't matter. But I think that the men should have closed the show based on how over Kofi was. With that said, next pay-per-view, who knows? Whoever has the hottest program should close the show, whether it's a man or a woman.
I think that door's kicked open for the future. I really do. I think that they may not care about wrestling the same way that everybody, may, but they care about superstars. And if they have a crossover person like a Ronda Rousey, if they have a situation where you have a group of women like they did with Sasha Banks and Charlotte and Becky Lynch, and when they all first came up, when they have what they had with Charlotte and with Becky Lynch right now, yeah, you go ahead and ride that, and you put them in. Forget now that you've done with WrestleMania, they can main event any special event / pay-per-view that you put out there. So I think from now into the future, that has changed. That has absolutely changed. Now, will they care about everyone in that division? Will they care about everyone? No. It's still the Brock Lesnar's and people like that of the world. It's the size of the star that you are. So we'll see how many of those get created as we go along, because again, they've done a good job, but now we'll see what's happened with Sasha, and we'll see what happens with Becky Lynch, because much like Kofi Kingston, too, I always have a worry after WrestleMania of what they're going to do with people, whether it be some of Daniel Bryan's things that he did after WrestleMania, after the high of the feel-good story. Let's see where we go. Seth Rollins, I'm not as worried about. Let's see where they go with Kofi and where they go with Becky Lynch. And I don't know if going with Becky Lynch against Lacey Evans is necessarily where I would have went, but you know what? That's what they do sometimes.
Person says, didn't you have a $100 bet with someone about the main event being the women's match and Becky winning? It's someone's time to pay the piper. Dude, I should be rich right now if everyone going to pay off their bets to me about that match. And I'm owed thousands of apologies. Back in a moment. Observer Live. Bro. All right, let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
All right. It's Rich from Florida. What's going on, guys?
What's happening?
What's up, Rich?
At the end of the year... what's up, Mike? So I texted in at the end of last year that Bryan would be two things: a top 10 U.S. indie guy this year, and I just wanted to congratulate him on this hot run and wish him the best in his pursuit of the APW Junior Heavyweight Championship.
That's right, brand new title belt coming home.
Yep. And also, do you guys think Roman Reigns and the honeymoon period is closing? Like, it seems like they're going to match him up against Corbin. I think I heard, about a couple of house show advertisements. That seems like it'll lead him right back to getting booed, because that feels like another Jinder Mahal, please cheer him type program. They also kept him off the show last night. Is there anything to that?
Well, I want to thank you very much for the call. I mean, number one, I mean, he ain't going to be booed against Baron Corbin. You kidding me? I mean, that's one thing you can almost guarantee. I don't know, the honeymoon period of him, like, being cheered massively is probably over. But I don't think that means people are going to go back to booing him. I mean, the worst case scenario actually isn't booing him, believe it or not. The worst case scenario is they just don't react to him one way or the other. Like, they don't like him, but they don't want to boo him, so they just don't do anything. That's the worst case scenario. I'm not sure if that's where we're at right now. I don't know why he wasn't on the show last night. I mean, sometimes people read too much into that. I mean, what was his role on the show? He didn't have one, so he doesn't need to be on the show. Just like if you don't have a role at WrestleMania, you don't need to be on the show. Not everybody needs to be on every show. In fact, if we've learned anything, not being on the show gets you more over than being on the show every week. So, yeah, we'll see. It's over to a degree.
I think you got to give. Well, yeah, the honey, it's going to end at some point. But I think with WWE, and by the way, those guys from Social Suplex kept me out at that bar after G1 until 4:00 in the morning. I was trying to go to church, and they just kept me out all night. It was a terrible thing. A nice person like myself, but you have that type of crowd that's there, filled with nice people that are traveling from all over the place, that love to kind of hijack that show in WWE's eyes, often, many years. So why bother putting anybody out there in that situation where you know you can't control them? They're going to do what they want you to do, what they want to do, which is not exactly what you want them to do. Why even bother with that? I like the matches that they put out there last night. They had the revival in the rematch of their deal, bringing out the bar to interrupt the main event, having Kofi. And I think they did a pretty good job last night, playing to the strengths and playing to what is a very, volatile post-WrestleMania Raw base.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
This is Jim from Virginia. How y'all doing this
evening? Hey, Jim, what's going on?
I tell you one thing. I was never more happy when Becky won the Anything Goes match at WrestleMania.
Never so happy.
It was just wonderful. She deserved it.
What did you think of the match as a whole?
Always. I thought it was pretty darn good myself.
Yeah? What do you think of the Iconics winning those tag titles?
Oh, Lord. That's Vince for you. And when you got a team like Natalya and Beth Phoenix right there, great Hall of Fame team, or it should be Hall of Fame team. Beth's already in. Natalia's not in yet, but is she, or is she? Natalia's not in the Hall of Fame, is she?
I don't think so.
Natalya, no.
She will be.
But anyway, maybe they'll do something with the Iconics and Beth and Natalya, and they'll feud, and they'll get it sometime. And what did you think of the match last night on Raw between Alexa Bliss and Bayley?
Thought it was a total nothing match. I want to thank you very much for the call, Jim. Just a nothing happening match. Bayley lost. Sasha's gone. It was weird.
No, I think it was just to fill something there. Maybe they had a tag match planned, and with obviously Sasha not being there or whatever is going on there, they just decided, okay, the people love Alexa, it's going to be a filler thing. Bayley doesn't lose anything. It's not tied in with the tag titles at all. It's just it's a time filler in and out, and that's it. And I think that's kind of all it was. And I think Jim's going to be disappointed because I don't think, the reason that the titles probably didn't go the way of Natalya and Beth is because Beth isn't sticking around as a regular performer, maybe on the microphone doing things, but not as a regular performer. So, from here, what do we do? Hopefully in the Superstar Shakeup, we get some of the women from NXT who come up. I don't know, Kari Hojo and Io would be nice. I don't know if they're going to come up together or anything like that, but they do need bodies and new faces to go after those tag titles.
All righty, let's get into the mailbag here. This person says, to your point, look at how simple Kofi's build was. Kofi gets his title match taken away. Kofi has to win a match but gets screwed. Nobody has to win a match and wins. Kofi wins the belt. That's simple, but that could have also been more simple. They actually did overcomplicate that one as well, but they only had, here's the thing. They only had a month to overcomplicate it. With Ronda and Becky and Charlotte, they had 3 months to overcomplicate it. So one ended up way more overcomplicated than the other. That's why it's funny when you sometimes hear, if they spent more time building up the matches, or if they had more time to build them up, it would be better. Yeah, if it was the 80s. But, dude, in 2019, more time to build up a match is always a disaster. Always.
And you know what? And the strides that they made in that way, you can draw the same parallel to promos. People always romanticize the promos of the 80s. I can tell you, for as many great promos and big promos as we have and as are remembered, there are tons and tons of bad ones, too. Go back in the archives and watch some of those old Mid-Atlantics and Floridas and other shows where it's like, it ain't all Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. You got a lot of, and even sometimes with them, they were on 52 weeks a year, cutting, promo after promo after promo. A lot of them got screwed up. So yeah, in some ways, how WWE does things now, how they lay things out for people, it is better. But then you have a situation last night where it's the example of the worst, where you have a backstage interviewer who introduces a segment in slow motion and then brings in Dana Brooke, who is trying her best, God bless her, to remember every single solitary word they had written for her. And she did. And it also came as the most robotic, saddest thing where it's like, I know she's probably not a thespian, but I bet you if you would have thrown her some points out there and say from the heart how you feel about being in the division, like, it could not have been worse than what ended up coming across on the screen last night. And there's a great example of, like, we're not bitching about this as fans. Like, we can ignore the little slip up in the promo, but, like, let it be far more natural than this, because I'm not believing any of this. On top of the fact that it's Dana Brooke, and you could probably argue, why is she getting all of this time anyway?
One of my pet peeves during the big matches, person says, the person being pinned looking at the ref. Ronda Rousey, of all people, does not do this, but I've seen veterans do this. Can you explain it to me? No, I can't explain it. I've never done it in my life. I have 2 ears. As far as I know, everyone else does too. I have no idea why I have to look at the ref. You know who else doesn't look at the ref? The best wrestler of all time, Okada. So, if he cannot look at the ref before his stupid kickouts, I'm sure everyone else can as well. Stop doing that, everybody. It's infuriating.
There are a lot of legends who have done that, too. Maybe they're just really paranoid.
No, they need to knock it off. Just listen to the count, for crying out loud. Person says, I like the Revival got an automatic rematch for their titles. Guess that changed again. Yep, that's what happened last night. This person here says, there was a sign at Raw yesterday that said, quote, is it too soon to boo Roman Reigns? Wow. Well,
see, exactly. Why would you bring him out in front of that crowd? See, Sami Zayn is right about you, sir.
This person here said, this person said, we had a bet for the Kofi match closing. Tell that other fool that wrote in to pay attention. Well, I'm positive that somebody probably bet me $100 that Becky was not going to win the main event, that Charlotte was going to win. I mean, literally, you know how many people for months insisted violently to me that Charlotte is winning the main event, Bryan. Charlotte's winning the main event. She's the chosen one. Charlotte's going to win. Oh, Bryan, the day of the show, Vince is going to change his mind. I told you guys, Becky's leaving with the titles. Nobody believed me. And I will admit, one person has apologized to me. One. After all these months. Bunch of cowards. And yes, this guy's bet was that if Kofi and Bryan main evented the show, Bryan was going to win. And I also insisted that was not going to happen, and it would not have.
So you just went out looking for fights on that one.
No,
there were a lot of us who said Becky was going to win. You just going out there to the people that were coming after you saying this about Charlotte.
You know what I do? I go through these text messages. I hit the next button. I just go them one at a time. I do not pick and choose. This person says it was it was at 12:30 and the match wasn't that good. Couldn't that be why it wasn't the hottest match on the show? What if the women went on in the Kofi spot and vice versa? The crowd reactions could have been reversed as well. Well, listen, the Kofi match would not have gotten nearly as much heat if it would have gone in at the end of the show as it did in the middle, but it was a 10 times better match. Daniel Bryan is an incredible worker, and it would have gotten over very big in that main event. Trust me.
Well, and it was the three-way was still the bigger match, but Kofi and Daniel Bryan was the hotter match, and because Daniel Bryan was involved in it, it was going to be the better worked match. And if you're, into the pro wrestling, that was by far the better match by leaps and bounds. Now, as a spectacle and everything else, I mean, it's not like the women's match was bad, but it just was not as hot going in for all of the reasons that everybody has been talking about leading into this thing.
Person says I'm full of baloney.
Oh, yeah?
He says Okada looks at the ref all the time. Maybe he's looked here and there, but I was watching at the G1 Supercard, and there were some near falls. He laid there like a dead man and kicked out. That's the way it should be done. That way you don't telegraph it.
Tanahashi and Okada, the greats.
If you're going to look at the ref because you want to kick out at the very last second, I mean, looking at the ref is like such an obvious giveaway that you're going to kick out. Why not just kick out earlier? You know what I'm saying? I don't get it.
Hey, I got a question.
Yes.
Why didn't you kick out against Orange Cassidy?
He pulled my tights. I couldn't.
Oh.
She cheated the whole match. I don't even want to talk about it right now.
I heard we need new theme music for the show. Is that true?
That's another story for another day. What do you mean we need new theme music? What are you talking about?
I don't know. I heard you lost the theme music.
What?
Nothing. Does Marco have theme music we can use as bumpers for the show?
Person says another positive of 4 Hour Mania is it used to be. It used to be and wasn't a problem before. We rented an apartment for Mania weekend, and I got back there at like 3:30 in the morning, soaked in rain after WrestleMania, and I'm heading into the building, and the door opens, and guess who's standing right there?
Who?
Marco Stunt.
Oh, no!
He was one apartment below me the entire weekend, and I had no idea.
He's shorter.
And he rushed out into an Uber, and he was gone. He avoided me.
Oh, did he? What, he like shoot through your legs, or like how did he get around you?
Yep. So his day's coming. How come the Iconics had a relevant spot on the Mania card and even won the titles, but Asuka wasn't on the pre-show and she lost? Or she was on the pre-show and lost? Because that's the story they're telling this week. And it's okay. Asuka will get pushed later. Everybody gets a chance here. You haven't figured that out yet? Everybody gets a spot on the Mania card. Everybody gets a chance with their belts. Everybody gets a chance. Everybody gets their moment. And this week it's the Iconics moment. So there you go. Back in a moment with more Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Person says, wouldn't you look at the ref to kick out within a few milliseconds to make it seem more dramatic? No! They have giant HD cameras filming the dude's face. And as soon as he looks at the referee, I know he's going to kick out. So actually there's less drama because he's looking at the ref starting at like the 2 count. The ref's going to go like this, everybody. Let me explain wrestling to you. He's going to go like this. Okay? So you're telling me that with your ears, I'm going to do it again. Tell me when you would kick out. There.
Right there.
Yeah. Crying out loud. How hard is this? You think the ref's going to go like this? It's not going to be a random cadence.
No, I think
he's going to go 1, 2, kick.
But the paranoia comes when it's like it's 1, 2, and then that.
No one's going to do that.
You never know.
No one's going to. No, I've never had a referee in my life that incompetent.
There's a lot of shooters in this.
And I've been surrounded by some incompetent refs in my lifetime. So no, stop looking at the ref, everybody. I met the B-plus players, by the way. This person says we should get those go-getters, the B-plus players who do our music. I met them this weekend. Great guys.
Huh.
They're the WrestleCon Super Show. I got some stickers. It was great.
They had stickers?
Yeah, they gave them to me.
Did you give out stickers?
No, of course not.
Promoting this show?
Speaking of, by the way, Filthy Tom Lawler will return tomorrow to the show. We'll talk about a very, very busy weekend. He wrestled 1 million matches, got busted open, violence hither and yon. I'll talk about Orange Cassidy and the match on April 27th with the Jungle Boy for the APW Junior title. It is on, everybody. I'm heading down there to California to bring home some gold. We're out of time, though. I want to thank you all for listening. Thanks, Mike, as always. Callers and listeners over to the studio. We'll talk to you again next time. Wrestling Observer Live.